Josh Reese here, Ben DuBose there. This is the Red and Orange Report YouTube channel. We're doing a little bit of a weekend review for the Houston Rockets. Well, they've kind of struggled the past couple games. The Rockets have not been able to close the game. One game they had James Harden, and the other game they did not have James Harden, and it didn't matter. They still lost.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. It's not every week that you play three bona fide contenders, which is definitely what the Cavs with LeBron, the Hawks, and Memphis are, And, the results are mixed. You can almost throw the Hawks game out. It's a fairly inspired performance just to make it close, but there's no way you can close out a team like that on the road without James Harden barring something just extraordinary, which they had for about 38 minutes, but not 48. And then the Memphis game the other night, it's a lot of attention's on the bad call, and that's right. They probably win that game if the call is correct. But at the same time, the thing they have to look at it, what Corey Brewer just told me in the locker room, was it's not about that one call. It's about putting themselves in that situation. They let Memphis start the quarter on a 10-0 run. It took the Rockets over 3 minutes to score. That bench group without James Harden was a problem. And that's, Corey Brewer, Josh Smith, Jason Terry, the headband gang. They're usually the good things. Against Memphis, not so much, especially in the fourth quarter. So, it's a reminder that you've got to get some help outside of Harden. You've got to push the tempo. I also thought what McHale just told us, Kevin McHale just said that the Memphis game, in his opinion, was the slowest that they've played since the All-Star break, referring to the tempo. And I think that's pretty telling, because when you look at guys like Corey Brewer and Josh Smith, they're not really great half-court players. They're not terrible. That's not their strength. What they do really well is get out and move with the ball in transition, push the tempo. In Josh Smith's case, make passes on the move and see the cutters. Yep. When they play slow, that group is prone to going through extended droughts like they did in the fourth quarter, and ultimately that, getting down 10 in the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter was what ended up costing them, because that's what put them in a position for a late call to be the difference maker.
Me and you were both at the Pistons game right now. Stan Van Gundy told the media earlier that he's expecting James Harden to get calls. The NBA itself kind of admitted that James Harden should have got a call. So we both think that this could maybe springboard referees to start looking at James Harden a little bit closer when he's driving towards the rim.
Yeah, I think so. You can't underestimate just how much power the NBA superstars have, and James Harden is one of those guys. Let's take it back to Sunday. I just told you this. I don't think James gets suspended if not for LeBron James making that kick a big deal in his post-game press conference. Because what ended up happening was the officials reviewed the tape with the help of the replay center. They saw every angle. They determined that Harden's kick to LeBron's point area was not intentional. They told the Cavs if it was, he would have tossed him. 9 times out of 10, the NBA is going to support its officials. They're going to have the back of the crew that's paid to do those jobs.
Officials, LeBron James.
What was the one thing that changed between when they reviewed it during the game and when the NBA reviewed Monday?
That was LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron blew it up into a big thing, and to his credit,
I think the NBA should look at that.
To his credit, it worked, but that's what maybe this can turn into too, because we've talked about it for the last 2 months. James has not gotten calls quite at the rate he has been before. Now, it hasn't been blown up into a big thing because he's still been leading the league in free throws. Yep. That doesn't mean every call is right. One of the biggest fallacies in basketball logic to me, you get these fans that just if they see a guy shoots 10 free throws, they're like, oh, well, he can't complain, he's flopping, blah, blah. Well, no, you can have 10 or 12 free throws and maybe you deserve 20. It's just the way, it all comes down to the way a given game is played out. And with James, of course, he's tremendous at drawing fouls. That last play of the Memphis game, we had a couple of guys saying, oh, was the ball coming out before? No, James does a great job of showing the ball on his drives to make defenders, reach, and when they do, he's in position to get fouled. It's not luck, it's not flopping, it's
an art.
It's an art. It's knowledge of the game,
yep.
And there's just a good opportunity to use this to kind of raise awareness, just the same way LeBron used, the post-game Sunday to, draw awareness to what he thought was a personal shot by James. Now the Rockets and James can use this as a reminder to the league that, hey, even though this guy is leading the league in free throws, it doesn't mean...
There's still calls that get missed.
Yeah, there's still calls that get missed. It doesn't mean that
very
he's
important
flopping
calls.
into these... Yes.
Well, I think we should also finish up here. Just a look at the games ahead. The Rockets have a really tough game against Denver tomorrow. It may not seem tough, but going to Mile High
Yeah,
on a back-to-back.
on a back-to-back in a
It's
fourth
gonna be
game in
tough.
5 nights.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting because the Rockets have a lot of guys that have gotten some major mileage on those legs. You look back at the Atlanta game when guys like Terry had to give you 30-plus minutes. Your older guys that you don't necessarily expect. So in that Denver game, I would not be surprised if there might, if you might need a KJ McDaniels or someone.
Pablo Prigioni.
Yeah, someone that's not in your usual rotation to step up because there's going to be a lot of weary bodies. And Denver, the one thing about them, they're playing hard. Now that they've
2-0 since they fired.
Yeah,
the coach.
since they fired Brian Shaw, they're playing hard. They're going to have a lot of energy. And with the Rockets, the Rockets have better talent. All things going to be about the talent. It's about can you match Denver's energy, especially in the fourth game in 5 nights. So that might be a game that that Mikhail has to get a little bit creative. Look at a KJ McDaniels. Look at a Joey Dorsey. Someone like that. That's a little bit atypical. And then next week is going to be the really big test. And I still think Dwight Howard's probably another couple of weeks away. Daryl Morey said on the Dan Levitard show yesterday that he thinks Dwight's about 3 weeks out, so we're probably looking at late March for Dwight's return. Next week, you have Portland and Utah. The one thing about both of those teams, they're very big. So, you look at Houston's 3 bigs with Terrence Jones, with Demo, with Josh Smith.
Yep.
The big X factor to me is can Donatas Motiejunas get back to playing the way he was before the All-Star break? Now, he hasn't been terrible since. One thing that you pointed out in your article yesterday on our Red and Orange Report blog was he shot the 3 really well, and that's kept him viable.
Yep.
But he's not rebounding at the rate that he used to.
No.
He's become more of an area rebounder as opposed to actually boxing out, making athletic plays. And then when you're going up against, a front line of LaMarcus Aldridge and Robin Lopez, Jarek Favors and a Rudy Gobert, who's taken over the league these days.
Taking over the league.
Yeah, you're going to have multiple big guys step up, and Terrence has been great, but he's going to need some help, and so it's going to be a pretty big referendum, I think, on Demo and Josh Smith because you're not going to have Dwight back yet, and dare I say, you might even need some Joey Dorsey against those two teams.
You'll definitely need Joey Dorsey. Joey Dorsey is the most underrated player on the Rockets,
and he packs
Maybe
a
not.
punch.
Maybe not. But the Rockets are definitely going to need some extra bodies going forward. Just you need them.
Sure, and last thing I'll touch on. Everyone's been asking me all week, and they probably have you too on Twitter. Are the Rockets going to go after JaVale McGee or insert buyout player here? No, there's no way that a player with options is going to choose Houston because you've already got those 3 guys we talked about: Demo, Jones, and Josh Smith. And you've also got Dwight coming back in 2 or 3 weeks. Joey Dorsey hasn't even been playing in a lot of games recently. Yeah. That's how good those 3 power forwards are. And, of course, against most teams, you don't even need 2 centers, And,
there's no room.
Yeah. And now you have Dwight coming back. A player that has options, like a JaVale McGee, is going to go somewhere. He first picked Boston, but then they had the dispute with the player team option, that stuff. But if a player's good enough to be, an upgrade on Joey Dorsey, he's going to have options, and he's going to go somewhere where he can be guaranteed playing time. He can't in Houston. If he would go to Houston, it's because he doesn't have options, and if that's the case, then why are you adding him anyway? Yeah. So you got to roll with what you got, and that probably means a little bit more Joey Dorsey over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Which is always good.
Yes, we love Joey.
That's right.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yes. One of our very first interviews. Well, anyways, I'm Josh Reese. You can follow me at Dyslexic Sports on Twitter. That is
Ben DuBose.
And thanks, guys, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bam.